All right, first up, congratulations to the LA Dodgers for winning the World Series. New York, what happened? I mean, that fifth inning was... What happened there? Crazy. But anyway, congrats LA. Yeah, people went crazy in LA celebrating the behavior, which I do not condone. I mean, someone literally lit a bus on fire.
Violence and looting broke out in some places.
Yeah, Eyewitness News reporter Jaysha Patel is live in Echo Park, where a Metro bus was actually set on fire. Jaysha.
Police had to deal with looting, vandalism, and a Metro bus that was set on fire.
Like a mile away from where I live, a guy blew his hand off, setting up fireworks. Anyway, I posted a video a couple of weeks ago giving away 5 drawing tips that I learned in the art school for people to get better at drawing. Now, one of the tips in my video caused a little bit of a stir, I want to say, but the tip was to avoid using lines when drawing. Tip number 3, avoid using lines specifically when shading. Now, the comments were very quick to remind me of, for example, cross-hatching or stipple shading or other drawing techniques that a lot of great artists use for their drawings and that are pretty viable drawing techniques. Now, people were telling me that I was like hampering people's creativity by telling them to avoid using lines. And it kind of got me thinking, because number one, I feel like I did a poor job explaining that tip in the video. So I wanted to make a video kind of going into more detail as to what I actually meant by that. And second, it got me thinking about, is there a right and wrong way to draw? And after much thought, and after many drinks, I think the answer is yes. Now, hear me out. I believe there is a right and wrong process to learn how to draw, but when it comes to actually drawing, no, I don't. You can do whatever you want. I couldn't care less. But there's a pretty famous quote, and I don't know who said it, but the quote is, before you can break the rules, you must first learn them and understand them. And that is essentially what I'm getting at with that tip that I mentioned in the video and for my statement today. Understanding basic gradient shading first without lines will give you a much deeper understanding of values and tones and your lowlights, your midtones, and your highlights, which is pretty crucial when it comes to any method of shading. So why do I say gradient shading first? Because I think it's honestly the easiest one and the most forgiving one. If you want to learn techniques like cross-hatching, which by the way, I made a whole video on cross-hatching and why I think it might be my favorite method of drawing, especially for my sketchbooks, because of its pace and the way it's like so free and flowing. I just really like to use it. But understanding basic gradient shading for someone who is just starting to get into drawing is pretty important if he later wants to do like cross-hatch shading. Now, why do I say this? Again, gradient shading is way easier than cross-hatch shading because when you cross-hatch, you need to first not only understand your basic values, which is like the only thing you really need to know for gradient shading, but you need to understand your values, you need to understand line weights, line spacing, how to make those values, the shape of the lines and the shape of your forms. You need to have a much broader understanding of shape rather than just shading. In order for techniques like cross-hatching or stipple shading, which personally, I just don't have the patience for stipple shading. I don't know how you people do it, but stipple shading, another example of just using dots to shade or make drawings. So that's essentially what I was getting at. A lot of great artists just do line drawings. A lot of great artists just do cross-hatching. There's an incredible cross-hatch artist on Instagram specifically. I'll put his profile up. I've also mentioned him before. His name kind of just escapes me right now. Stipple shading, a lot of amazing artists do a lot of good stuff with that, especially tattoo artists. Shout out to the tattoo world. You guys are killing it out there, especially with the stipple shading coming out right now. It's not like I'm against line drawing. I just think that for someone who is just starting out, who is just learning how to draw, understanding the basics first before you develop those newer techniques, or should I say more advanced techniques, is pretty important. Now, do you guys ever see like a master of their craft. Now, it could just be art or it could just be anything. Cooking is a great example of this. So picture like a great chef. You guys ever see like a master Michelin star level chef make a dish?
Start to toast the rice. Add the white wine.
It looks so easy, it looks so effortless.
Look at that! It's like a bison's penis. What is that shit? Look at that! Stone cold frozen salmon. Who put the salmon in the freezer?
They're not really measuring ingredients, they're just, it looks like they're just throwing shit in a pan and pot, and bam, you get like a 3-star Michelin meal. Well, they can only do that because they understand flavors to such a deep level that they know that, oh, this amount of seasoning, just by feeling it, is gonna produce this flavor, and I have to balance it with this amount of seasoning. And they don't need to measure anything because they just understand what everything tastes like. Their palate is so developed. And that's essentially what I'm getting at. In order to be amazing with line techniques for drawing, you need to first understand your values. Values are one of the most important things when it comes to drawing. Even if you want to go into the more abstract route, like Picasso did with Cubism. Picasso, I'm sure, could draw a pretty amazing, realistic, anatomical figure, but he just chose to distort it. And he could only distort it to the effect he could because he understood how to do that anatomical drawing first. So, learn the basics. If you're just starting out drawing, figure out gradient shading first. Figure out shapes, figure out your forms and how to draw from memory and not just a reference. And then experiment. Get into cross-hatching, get into stipple shading, and you will have a much easier time, and I think a much more fun time figuring stuff out. And at the end, you'll just become a better artist because you have a deeper understanding of many different things. If you've never drawn before, don't just straight go into like single line drawings or cross-hatching drawings and stuff like that. That just doesn't make sense to me. But again, that's the amazing thing about art. A lot of people can disagree with me. So if you do, please let me know in the comments, why do you disagree? This is the way I learned, so I just think it's best, but people might have learned differently and their way might actually be better. So again, educate me, let me know what you guys like to see. Congrats to the Dodgers, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified every time I post a video, and as always, have a great day. Bye.